Whoa! Hello there, friends. What are we actually seeing starts to get complicated? It was easy. It will start to separate. Are definitely not behind that restricted access grid. They're not. Forget about it.
None of them will be able to be revived.
So please, be reasonable. Returning to the orientation we usually is the private traditional. A stabby, but I don't think. And those rectangular outcroppings weren't. Here is my Catwoman glove and glove. I should have a floating, impossible anti-gravity blah blah blah. Now, if we were to keep taking snapshots, eventually, how do you transmit a discrete shell?
Well, Aria, we've been tracking this thing for weeks and we still don't know what it is.
The basilisk has its eyes on you now. What are you going to do? And at some point, the acceleration is going to get so high that you're going to pass 9.8 meters. Look, I know that neither of those examples were fun. A screaming fish on this side would never be fun, leaving me weightless no matter where I am. What the? We generate our truth endogenously or within our own bodies. I give killer high fives. Is it? Evident? This theory is only one of a dozen. Okay, good, because it's rock, paper, scissors. Where are you right now? Bam. The finger-laser. That finger-laser. Isn't that wild? Finger-laser.
It is good coffee. Oh, I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you send them out there. No, I'm looking at a large asteroid right now. Yeah. No. The humans concluded that apparently, if it's far out enough, yeah, there needs to be some sort of time horizon. I mean, it's a large explosion. Well, he's rich, right? I mean, it's not like he can't afford. How much? Well, yeah, I don't know if Mr. Willis can really afford the startup cost of an entire nuclear program, because yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, his head is kind of shaped like an asteroid these days. What's that? Oh, yeah, probably just a large with pepperoni. Thanks. I don't know why you keep taking my calls, but I sure do love Pizza Hut. Oh, hello. I have returned! Welcome to Office Hours, a live component of the facility. I'm a little bit jet-lagged, where good old Professor Kyle opens up his blast doors, does some sort of Aperturian transition, allows all of you, members of the general public, my staff, my security team, all of you who didn't heed my warning signs on the outside of the facility, come in for the next hour or so. Join Office Hours. Ask your conduit to the sciencey universe any old thing that you and your heart fancy. For the next hour or so, we'll be taking your comments and questions, as you can see right here. We'll also be talking about a number of topics this week. In fact, this week we'll be only talking about one topic. That's Bruce Willis. And the feasibility, well, not Bruce Willis, but the feasibility of using a nuclear weapon to deflect an asteroid as some sort of last-ditch effort to save the planet Earth. But of course, if you really, really, really want me to see something, throw it in the chat. If you really, 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 really want me to see something, as you can see everyone doing in here, you can simp for science by using Super Chat on YouTube. Can't promise I'll get to all of these wonderful questions and comments and corrections and observations about my hair and face, but know that even if I don't get to it, you're still simping for science. You're still paying for my Ubers that I took in Ukraine while I was there. You want an example? Well, as my security team is already moderating the chat. I'm seeing a number of lovely comments from you. I'm back, baby. Kaylin Andy with the Australian $14. T-Love, a.k.a. the Silver Lurker. Hey, Kyle. Love the show. Don't mind me. I'm just lurking as usual. In fact, just ignore this. The Silver Lurker, how can I ignore a $100 donation? You're simping with the best of them. Dr. Strange Jove with the 10. Nukes and asteroids. Man, Armageddon out of here. It's not bad. Tactical Bucket with the 20. Hit that like button, fam. Torma with the 10. Please make sure the asteroids are properly marked. Last time we lost Sigma Phi 137 in the Delta Quadrant of the Solar System's asteroid belt, along with all of the resources it held. Thank you, Torma. These space rocks are full of many precious minerals, and we can't lose them without some sort of reason. I'm back. Back from Chernobyl. We can also talk about that if you want. Jar of Toad with the 13 says, hey Kyle, would it be possible to put a machine on a bone that would help inject medical drugs into the bloodstream, or would it be too impractical? I say inject it straight into your bloodstream. I say that just sounds like injectable. That's just an IV drip. You invented IVs. Look at you. Welcome back, Kyle, says Sean with a 10. Thank you. Woo! FTFE, I recognize you from the Discord, which you can join. Patreon.com/Kyle Hill. Of course, I'm still annoyed that Bruce didn't say yippee-ki-yay MFer when he pushed that plunger. Well, I'm not... Armageddon and Die Hard being in the same universe is confusing to me. Kale Silverwind with the 20 says a different tiny human named Alex has said nothing yet, but she does giggle whenever she says she. I just got back from Chernobyl. Spent 7 days there. Walked an average of 6.6 miles per day. My dogs are barking, both literally and figuratively. I'm tired. I'm 10 hours ahead of you in my brain. So forgive me if I stumble a little bit today. Whew. Heavy Weapons Guy with the 20. Greetings, Kyle and Aria show. That doesn't make sense. Always love tuning into the show and learning some newfangled science. Ooh, we're getting some newfangled science. We're getting there. I'm getting there. By the way, Sheila was found in the fruit garden without her collar again, and Jupiter Brain is feeling lonely. Jupiter Brain never feels lonely because I programmed it to always feel the companionship of knowing that the heat death of the universe is pretty far away. Thomas Hadrick, as usual, with the support with the 100. Here's some money for potassium iodide and pepperoni pizza. Also, I've been seeing news on new discoveries on the possibility of a pre-Big Bang. I couldn't make any sense of it. Your thoughts? I would go to a guy named @starts-with-a-bang on Twitter. He breaks that down. You mentioned, Thomas, potassium iodide. People giving me... Have you people in the chat, have you snuggled? Oh my gosh. I'm so tired. Have you smuggled back any radioactive insects? Are you radioactive? Have you been tested? Look, as we will get to, I filmed about 0.5 terabyte of footage with help from one of my Kevins. And, as you can see, this says radiation specialist in Ukrainian. Zdrasty. That's Russian. I mean, привет. And I probably grabbed 5 to 6 different episodes. So in terms of how much radiation I was exposed to, what I was doing, how you measure radiation, what's going on inside of Chernobyl, what's going on inside of the sarcophagus, we will get to all of that in the weeks and months to come. It's a lot to sort through, but we'll get there and we'll produce something pretty amazing for you, I hope. You should see the drone footage. Whew! Some planet Earth kind of stuff. I bought a drone just for Chernobyl. Totally paid off. Tiger's Wood says, did you see any radioactive wolves? No, but I saw a bunch of radioactive dogs. And that will be one of the episodes, The Dogs of Chernobyl. So stay tuned for that. I can't super chat unless I pay $100, says Sir Doddington Formont. Well, Sir Doddington, that's too bad. Perhaps I can assuage your mood by talking to you about a young Bee Willie. Yeah, it happened. Beep boop. I'm getting ahead of myself. Beep boop. Bee Willie. The guy you might recognize as Rachel's boyfriend who was too old for her in Friends. The man you may recognize as Joe from G.I. Joe. The man who defeated Hans Gruber in Nakatomi Plaza by undoing a wristwatch. Wow. The man, known as Bee Willie, destroyed an asteroid by nuking it on its surface. Now, this approach to disrupting or deflecting an asteroid has been in popular culture for some time. You know, whatever this movie is, Armageddon, you've heard of Deep Impact. There's probably 1,000 other B movies that take nuking an asteroid to a new, silly level. But Armageddon is arguably the most famous. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, I think, is a song in that film. But for as long as nuking an asteroid has been in popular culture, there's always been the scientific question, is it a feasible proposition? Is nuking an asteroid something you'd want to do? Well, you start with the fundamentals. Are there asteroids that could destroy the Earth? Yes, very much so, because asteroids are flinging themselves with the gravitational effect of the sun, flinging themselves around the solar system at many kilometers per second, like anywhere between 10 to 30 kilometers per second. An asteroid that's 100 meters to a kilometer, not that big, could easily wipe out a continent or wipe out all life on Earth. Matterbeam, welcome. Sully69 says, you are wrong, my dude. Be quiet. I'm right. So it doesn't take that big of an asteroid to pose a significant threat to Earth. So if we used our telescopes and our sciencey science eyes to look out into space, and we saw something like a giant rock heading towards us, what could we possibly do? Well, that depends, as we already said, on size, but it also depends on detection time. How much time do we have? That's a very important point, right? If an asteroid comes out of nowhere, because we didn't see it, or we didn't detect it, and we have only a few days to do something, that would prescribe one intervention over another. Or say there was a giant asteroid that we've been tracking for years, and we know that in 5 years it's going to hit us. That would dictate some other approach. These approaches I don't know why I'm talking like this. These approaches vary quite a bit. As Darmo 10 says, lasers. Yes. Lasers is one possible intervention. Laser bees in space is one intervention that I like quite a bit. All of these interventions come down to altering the trajectory of an asteroid. You can do that by imparting momentum to the asteroid to change its trajectory such that it misses Earth, or you can destroy it. Lasers, even though photons of light that's how Carl Sagan says it. Even though photons of light do not have mass, they do have momentum. And by firing a laser into an asteroid, you can transfer momentum. And even though that momentum may be small compared to the momentum of the asteroid, over time, if you have enough time, as we said, you can slightly change the trajectory of the asteroid. And sometimes all you need to do is slightly change it. Because if an asteroid is millions and millions of kilometers, billions of kilometers away, all you have to do is nudge it a tiny bit. Because that tiny angle difference, extended out 1 billion miles, ends up becoming a huge distance, a distance big enough to miss Earth. Lasers are one way. Isaiah says, if we simply eat the asteroid, it can't hurt us anymore. And you see, you did all caps and you got deleted. That's what happens. Cosmic Spud says, my brain hurts. Too bad. Here's some more science. Another way to deflect an asteroid is through something called a kinetic impactor. So again, this is momentum, but this is kinetic energy in the form of a fast-moving probe or spacecraft or something else that we launch from Earth, that we launch it so it impacts the asteroid at some point in time, transfers its kinetic energy, slowly moves it, or moves it, gives it enough of a shock that it changes its trajectory enough to miss Earth. Yet another intervention you might be able to do is use gravity. So if an asteroid was far enough away, if we had enough time, you could park a small ship near it, or a small probe or object near it, and near it, on a trajectory near it. And if you did that, you could use the gravitational attraction of the smaller body on the much larger body, and over time, in a gravitational tugboat, it could move the asteroid with this gravitational influence, again, changing the small angle such that eventually it will miss Earth. How fast does an asteroid goes? Says LC. It goes many fasts, technically. But what we are talking about today is not deflection. We're talking about disruption with nuclear energy. So, like Armageddon points out, or the whole point of Armageddon, is to detonate a nuclear device on an asteroid. The goal of disruption isn't to deflect, it is to destroy the asteroid. Now, this comes along with additional caveats, right? Because if you blow up an asteroid, you make billions, if not trillions and more, of tiny pieces of asteroid. So now you don't have just one large asteroid. You could have many, 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 many asteroids that, if they're not deflected sufficiently, can rain down on the surface below eventually. And you turn one big problem into a trillion tiny problems. That could be even worse. Or the asteroid could be too close, such that breaking it apart, the angle won't change enough in its trajectory, such that if my head is Earth and you broke it apart right here, it still hits Earth. So, tinier pieces will burn up, says MPLA. Well, it depends on the size of the pieces. Which brings us to the present study. A recent study, published as a PhD thesis, looked at and simulated the effects of detonating a 1 megaton nuclear device, so 1 million tons, 1 billion kilograms TNT equivalent, on the surface of an asteroid. It simulated where the pieces went, how they orbited afterwards. Would they fall back to Earth? Would they fall to Earth or go somewhere else? And it also put a time value on the feasibility of this. Not sharks with laser beams, Alan Weed. Okay? We're not going to send sharks with frickin' laser beams on their heads to an asteroid. We're going to nuke it. They put a time value on this. How soon could you nuke an asteroid and have it be effective? Do you need a week of lead time? Do you need a month? Do you need a year? Do you need a decade? These are important questions to answer. And so, let us watch a simulation. This is a simulation of a 1 megaton nuclear device detonating on the surface of a 100-meter asteroid. So, you see the 10L Met star says no drill required? No. In this example that you're seeing right here, in this simulation, real simulation in a real scientific paper that Bruce Willis would never read, you don't need Bruce Willis at all. Man, it really blows that thing up, huh? You fly a 1 megaton nuclear device to this asteroid and you destroy it. Makes many, many little pieces. But now, the rocky rubber meets the road, as it were. Do these pieces go on to impact Earth? At what time value? What the study found was that, quote, we find that disruption can be a very effective planetary defense strategy even for very late interventions and should be considered as an effective backup strategy should preferred methods, which require long warning times, fail. Disruption could significantly reduce the scale of the disaster if we disrupt the object by as little as 2 weeks. Scenarios included, what you're looking at here, over 99.9% of an asteroid's mass missing Earth if you nuke it 2 months in advance, or 6 months prior to impact, still 99% of this object's total mass missing Earth. So, even though there has been talk of the feasibility of this since movies like Armageddon came out, Zaki, the asteroid is 100 meters. Dinosaur says, I caught a live stream? No way. Believe it. Even though there's been a lot of talk of, would this actually work? Do we even need Bruce Willis? Really? Those might be 2 separate questions. But it seems like from simulations like these, nuking an asteroid is a viable last-ditch effort to prevent the majority of an asteroid's mass from impacting Earth. And you can do this with yields from nuclear weapons that we already have today. You can do this intervention with as little as 2 weeks' notice, which is very, very, very short on a cosmic timescale. And it doesn't multiply the problem. These little pieces or large pieces of rock don't multiply the effect of the impact on Earth. And so, it seems like if our planet's life was on the line, sending the nuclear equivalent, seems like if the planet's life was on the line, sending the nuclear equivalent of B. Willie to the surface and saying, yippee-ki-yay, mother fusion, seems like that could actually do something beneficial. Even if it didn't do anything that beneficial for Ben Affleck's career. That's not true. He was doing quite well when that movie was coming out, right? I don't care. Thomas again. The 10 says SIMP stands for shooting impactful massless particles because lasers. Hiroshi loves you with the 10 says, hey Kyle, my once splendid hair is thinning progressively, and though I lived my whole life here in Germany, I blame my loss 100% on Stalin's nuclear Kishtim disaster. I don't know how feasible that is. I mean, I don't know how likely that is. But I can see how you'd be very upset. Maybe you should try keeps. It's your hair. Keep it. Mahmoud Glacier says, wait, you don't need hydrogen atoms in order for the nuclear bomb to work? Would a nuclear bomb work in space the same way it works on Earth? Mahmoud, a nuclear bomb would work in space for the same reason that a bullet would work in space, in that the fuel is completely contained. Inside of a nuclear weapon, you have conventional explosives surrounding nuclear material to either compress it or start a nuclear fission reaction, which compresses and starts a nuclear fusion reaction. It's all to say that all of the fuel, all the nuclear fuel, is inside of the bomb already, so you don't need any hydrogen outside of the bomb for it to work. That's why a nuclear bomb would work in space. Cyborg Ninja Jesus says, did the study consider larger yields for the bomb? I don't know. It's behind a paywall, and I think they were just going with something feasible, not like Sarbomba or whatever, you know. Eba Fear says, would there be any issues with nuclear fallout if you nuke an asteroid? No. It's all in space. So fission products and particles from the nuclear explosion, I suppose, could bond to and or adhere to fragments of the rock. But if 99.9% of the rock is missing Earth, then I suppose that it's not the main issue. Also, consider the fact that nuclear contamination of an asteroid that was going to destroy an entire continent isn't the biggest worry, right? You want to save 1 billion lives. That's the main thing. What do you think would happen if you blew up the nuke before the asteroid instead of impacting? Says O'Reilly. Hard to say. I think it flies to the asteroid and then explodes on the surface. Doesn't impact. And again, think of the energy here. The kinetic energy of a missile hitting an asteroid or whatever, or an atomic weapon hitting an asteroid at many kilometers per second, is going to be completely dwarfed by the energy released by a 1 megaton nuclear explosion. In this case, kinetic impacting is basically not part of the equation at all. The main energy source is the explosion. Night Sun says, when you going to my grandfather's home country of Ukraine? Spoiler alert, I just got home. I was there for 7 days. Ukraine is beautiful. I really, really, really like it there. Durandal says, would it be necessary to use multiple nukes on an asteroid, or is one sufficient? This simulation covered 1 megaton. A single 1 megaton nuclear explosion. Lily with the 10 says, hey Kyle, love you so much. Hey Lily. Question for you. Why is fluid dynamics so complex and still not perfectly accurate when we can model things down to a molecular level? Fluid dynamics is very hard. I took that class in college, Lily. But I don't think it's not an issue that we don't know how fluids move down at a molecular level. We can simulate things to a pretty crazy resolution. It's when you throw that fluid into a system that's very complicated. It's the same way that we know how rain works and how raindrops fall, but predicting the weather is incredibly hard, and we need some of the best, most complicated models humans have ever come up with to predict the weather. It's because the climate as a system is unbelievably complicated. So fluid dynamics can be known, but fluid dynamics acting within a very complicated system is something that's even harder to simulate. Feral Beast with a 25 says, one does not simply miss the live show. So I just watched the last segment while in the shower. I regret nothing. Really wish I didn't read the last part of that. Senior Mitz with the 5 says, instructions unclear. Litho broke some curveballs into an asteroid. I feel like if I played that game, I would know what you meant, but I don't. We might play that game coming up on stream soon. And speaking of playing games on stream soon, this weekend, on Halloween Eve and Halloween night, we will be playing here on YouTube as an experiment. We will be going through another new Scientist Plays. We're going to be playing Dead Space in 1080p, 244 hertz. We're going to be playing one of the most classic horror games, filled with a bunch of sci-fi, jump scares. It's going to scare your pants off if you've never seen it before. We're going to play it. We're going to get scared in the middle of the night. We are going to science it. There's a lot of science in that game, for sure. The main character is an engineer, just like yours truly, so it's going to be good. Join me on the night of the 30th and the 31st as a Scientist Plays Dead Space 1. Maybe we'll get to Dead Space 2. But probably just Dead Space 1. Maybe this was already asked, but in Armageddon, the asteroid was compared to the size of Texas. How big of a nuclear weapon would you need for that? It says Voices in the Dark with the 5. An asteroid, so 100 meters is a tenth of a kilometer. Now, I'm no geography scientist, but Texas is wide. It's the widest state, I think, in the contiguous 48 states, of which I'm the smartest man therein, as you know. An asteroid the size of Texas would end all life on Earth, I'm pretty sure. And so a single megaton bomb probably wouldn't save us. Jordan Crozier says, what time will we be playing Dead Space? I don't know. If you want more information about when... Wow, I'm watching me, watching myself, watching me. If you want more information, you can go to... Oh, if you want to be notified, of course, when we go live playing our scary games this weekend, you can go to this link that I just put in the chat. It is the link to the new gaming channel, where if you haven't joined us just yet, you can join us now. Chernobyl. Wow. I was in Chernobyl for, and this, again, radiation specialist. I was in Chernobyl for a full week. I'm still so tired. But it was a hell of a thing. I think you're really gonna like. I think you're really gonna like what we did. Zachary Schmidke says Texas is 101,600 kilometers across. That would, I think that would be game over. I think he just called Texas fat, says Alan Weed. No, but everything is bigger than Texas. And I bet the obesity rate isn't great. Texas had the in 2019, 35% of Texans were obese. So, I'm not calling Texas fat. I'm just saying numbers. That is the thickest state with a bunch of interesting people. Steven says, your hair looks better than ever. What is in the water at Chernobyl? One of the videos I want to show you, one of the things I came into Chernobyl wanting to document was, was the reality of the situation. By which I mean, every single person that I told I was going to Chernobyl, and many of you commenting on my social whatevers, were saying like, oh, what superpowers did you get? Are you irradiated? Even Matterbeam. You there, Matterbeam, in the chat. Said, were you tested? Were you decontaminated or tested before or after? Or did you use a dosimeter on yourself? I think all of you have a misconception about how radiation is deposited, how things become radioactive. If you just go to a radioactive area, you're not going to become radioactive. Just because I was in Chernobyl does not mean you could put a Geiger counter on me now and I'd be at a rate above background. That's not how radioactivity works. And I will get into that when I show you. And again, the drone footage alone should earn a subscription. Memento Mori says, I can't read binary. Cool. The Spooky Kitty says, Spider Thor, did you grow arms? Again. No, I grew legs. But that had nothing to do with Chernobyl. Point being, you can go to an irradiated area without being irradiated. And, as you will see, radiation security at Chernobyl is everywhere. Inside the hallways, there's radiation detectors that will beep if you walk by or you set them off. To enter the plant and to leave the plant, you have to go through radiation full-body scanners where you stand in them, kind of like the airport X-ray scanner, and hold your hands up and touch stuff. You have to go through a clean room and a dirty room. I brought clothes that I thought would be good the whole time. Oh, you fool. You have to enter the power plant, take off all your clothes, all of them, and then a woman who works at the power plant yells at you in Ukrainian asking what size clothes you are. And she gives you clothes from the plant. And those are the clothes you wear in the zone. And then when you come back, you take all those clothes off and you change back into your own clothes and leave. So even if my clothes were being irradiated, or I was, I remove all those clothes and they are taken away. See what I mean? Yeah, but is there rad roaches? Says Critical Mass. I feel like you're deliberately misunderstanding me, Critical, and that's your fault. Oops. Donald, what are the chances SpaceX's chopsticks successfully work? I have no idea, because I don't know what they are. Bob Smith with the 5 says, if you cut Alaska in half, Texas would be the 3rd largest state. I guess you're a real map scientist, huh? Tyrannosaurus Russ with the 10 says, Kyle, love the show! Been wanting to pick your brain on this for a while. Do you have any thoughts on how a worldwide nuclear defense system would work, or is it even possible? I think, if anything, it's going to be a missile defense system, right? The thing about a nuclear weapon is that you can disable it. You could blow it up without blowing it up. A nuclear weapon is pretty finely tuned to explode in a very certain way to kick off a nuclear chain reaction. If that doesn't happen, say if you shoot it with a gun and you knock one of the fins off and it destabilizes the missile and it falls to the ground, it's not going to just detonate in a nuclear explosion. So missile defense systems seem like they would work well. But the problem is, we have thousands upon thousands of nuclear weapons, and it only takes one to end the world. Anyway. Lagging? I'm lagging. Kyle Howard with the 5 says, so how rad was Chernobyl? I did something. I had my dosimeter with me, or dosimeter, if you don't know how to speak. And I did a little comparison, and I will show you this in a video to come at some point. Thank you, Heather. That the ambient level of radiation in Chernobyl, in Pripyat, the abandoned city that you see in all the videos, and you will see in my amazing drone footage that I could sell to Discovery Channel or something. If you're away from a hotspot, of which there are many, but if you're in just Pripyat, or just outside of the power plant, the ambient radiation level is 10 times less than what you get sitting on an airplane. And I bet that surprises you. Surprised me. After I went to Chernobyl, I had the dosimeter on me. It's like, hey, why don't I turn it on while I'm on the plane? And it went surprisingly high while I was on a plane. So that's interesting context. Antonio Salinas says, do you know how much radiation you could have possibly received during your trip? I know the conditions are made to be as safe as possible, but I'm still interested. Yes, I could calculate how much radiation I got during my trip. And it's not very much. It's not like I received an entire lifetime's worth or an entire year's worth. It's not very much. Trust me. Except, well, not except, but when we were under the new safe confinement, the dome that the sarcophagus is in. Ooh, anime bags. When we were in, nope, too much. When we were under the dome, the background level of radiation inside of the nuke safe confinement was 100 times higher than outside. And that one was dangerous. You can't... There's two things you need to know. There's two things you need to manage to protect yourself from radiation. Time, distance. The less time you spend around it, the better. The farther you are away from it, the better. Easy. Mally28 says, so what's nuclear on a plane? Nothing. It's as you go up into the sky on a plane, as you do, there is less atmosphere between you and space, which means there's less stuff to get in the way of cosmic radiation. And so when you go 5 miles up into the sky on an airplane, you get more cosmic radiation. Airplanes are 10 times more radioactive than Chernobyl confirmed, says Thomas. No. Being high up in the atmosphere, you get a larger ambient level of radiation than is at Pripyat or the Chernobyl nuclear power plant outside of a hotspot. There are hotspots, don't get me wrong. Benjamin Wilkin with the $9.99 says, love your content. Whoo! Hey, look at us. I'm just talking to you. It's been a kind of a chill chat. I enjoy that. It's almost like I'm reading all of your comments and questions because I didn't have another topic. And I'm so jet lagged. I'm so tired. Benjamin, first time catching a live stream. Hopefully this isn't a stupid question. Can you explain herd immunity versus vaccination and how masks factor into that situation? Trust you over media. Herd immunity, Benjamin, is when enough people have antibodies against some virus that the virus can no longer transfer between people effectively enough to sustain some sort of pandemic or disease. So when you get your flu shots, we try to achieve herd immunity by getting our flu shots, as many people getting our flu shots as possible, such that the flu cannot spread effectively, and hopefully it spreads so little that it kind of dies out and doesn't become an epidemic or a pandemic. Now you can get immunity one of two ways. We can give our bodies a head start with vaccination, use science to give our bodies a head start, or you can get the disease, get the virus, your body will naturally develop antibodies against that, and then you may, it's not always the case, you may get some natural immunity from that because your immune system remembers what happened to you. But in the case of something that's deadly, that spreads like wildfire, as in the case of this Delta variant with COVID, herd immunity by natural infection is not a public health measure. It will, as we've already seen, cause millions of deaths, completely destabilize and disrupt the healthcare system, and lead to untold suffering. Everyone could get it and get some natural immunity, but it's not a public health measure because you're not doing anything. Causes a lot of harm, and we're seeing studies that you're more likely to get the disease again if you haven't been vaccinated at all. And so herd immunity through vaccination, where nobody has to get the disease first, is the best option that we have. You vaccinate upwards of 90% of the population, and the R0 of the disease, how many people on average the disease goes on to infect from a single person. If you have a single person and they're likely to infect 5 other people, that's their R0, but all those people have immunity already, there's no spread. That's herd immunity. But again, one way causes a lot of harm and doesn't use any of the science that we've crafted to save lives and economies and well-being. And the other, the COVID vaccines, are literally, and I'm saying this to you, Benjamin, literally, the second most effective vaccines in the history of medicine and a true miracle of medical development. Both getting the disease and getting vaccinated give your immune system an idea of what to look for. But one will save a lot of lives, and the other is just choosing to relegate society to the ravages of a new disease, you know. Or something like that. I don't know. Moop says vaccine has helped. Nothing is 100% effective. Of course. Of course. Nothing is 100% effective. However, like I said, these COVID vaccines are the second most effective vaccines in the history of medicine. Upwards of 90 to 95% effectiveness. Nothing's 100% effective. But when you're talking about 7 billion people, the difference in a few percentage points, or a bunch of percentage points, is literally millions of people's lives. And if you don't see why that matters, I don't think you're reasoning effectively or caring sufficiently about the well-being of other humans like you are. K. Wecky says, nice freestyle explanation. That's why they pay me the medium bucks, baby. Tactical Bucket, trying to change the subject, quite obviously. I have a question. Is there a theoretical method for using a water slide to achieve escape velocity? Not without propulsion. Because even if you had a water slide that was a couple miles high, the amount of gravitational potential energy, well, you'd have all this gravitational potential energy. At the bottom of the slide, all that gravitational potential energy will be converted into kinetic energy, and even then, I don't think the velocity is anywhere near escape velocity, which is around 11.2 kilometers per second, but you knew that. Grim Watcher says, bulletproof vests aren't 100% effective, but you'd rather wear one in a war zone. It's true. Brian Crass with the $10 says, here's some more medium bucks. Ooh. Love the medium bucks. Jay Twisted with the 50. Sorry, I downed an entire thing of sunflower seeds before I got on. Jay Twisted with the 50 says, hey Kyle, love the show. Glad to see you're back safe. I can't wait to see the footage. Shout out to the security team for all the good work with the 50. Whew. Hey, Tier Zoo in the chat. Top tier science communication. One of the most unique and fun ideas for videos and a niche unexplored by pretty much everyone. Tier Zoo, get in here. Get in the facility. Here, look, I'll show you. I know you have like all your tiers, but I have a big room with a Godzilla thing in the back. Yeah. How about that? S tier room here at the facility. Look, there's even a breeze. Look at the grass. Give me that heart, Tier Zoo. Hey, remember when we met at EduCon? That was fun. Remember when people gathered together? That was interesting, huh? Twinge with the 199. Who? Drew Dreewood. Hey, Kyle. Make sure you get a good amount of sleep and drink plenty of that glorious water. We need your beautiful mind to explain cool science. By the way, I'm Kyle, too. Oh, man. You're right. I'm seeing Dune tonight. I'm excited. I thought you left the facility. Says IWYT. What are you talking about? That's where we are right now. Koopa in the chat. Looks like Kyle is in a Portal 2 level. What are you talking about? Nothing about the facility has been inspired by Aperture Science or Cave Johnson. What are you talking about? Mr. Button says, what do sunflower seeds do to you? Oh, I ate a bunch, and so I was burping into the microphone. Matterbeam says, Dune is incredibly good. How much do you know going in? 3 things. I've read the book. It's like maybe the most classic sci-fi novel of all time. I've read the book, so I know exactly what's going to happen. I used to work at Legendary Entertainment. Yes, the movie studio that makes Dune. Which leads me to point number 3. I read the script for this Dune movie over a year ago. Maybe 2 years ago? Oh, dang, like 3 years ago, probably. So you could say, Matterbeam, I know literally everything about the movie. But I haven't seen it. I even saw dailies, raw footage, before they started editing it. Like, I saw fight scenes and stuff. So I know more than the average person, of course. What was I going to say? But Denis Villeneuve, he's such a fantastically talented filmmaker, and his eye for shots and scenes and backgrounds, I know it's going to look fantastic. I mean, Blade Runner 2047 was masterful in its composition and everything. So I'm excited to... So, though I know everything about Dune... oh, God, I do need more water. Though I know everything about Dune, I'm excited to see it. Shai Hulud. Trachea says, dang, you're an insider. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you work there. Matterbeam says, have you met Denis Villeneuve? No. No. Working at a company and being on a movie set, 2 totally different things. Mr. Button says, shout out to her wholesome dollar store. So tired. Ryan Huber with the $9.99 says, hey Kyle, started watching recently and I just watched the video about the man getting hit with the particle accelerator in the face. And I was wondering, Would something like an alpha particle cause more impact damage? An alpha particle, there's alpha and beta and gamma radiation. Alpha is the least penetrating of the three. It's basically a helium nucleus with 2 protons and 2 neutrons with no electrons, so it's charged. Beta radiation is 100 times more penetrative. It's basically electrons or positrons. And gamma radiation is the most penetrative, it being 1,000 times more penetrating than alpha radiation, I believe. And if I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. If it was alpha particles, would it do more damage? On the face of it, that sounds like it makes sense, but I don't know. Ether Vev says, would you ride the worm? Only if I step without a rhythm. Defective AI says, no, it's a Dune remake. No, it's not. It's not remaking the the movie with Kyle MacLachlan. That's not what it is. It's from a book. Apparently, Jason Momoa watched the Game of Thrones finale just before he filmed his fight scene. Is that why he's so angry? John Tapio with the 10 says, Kyle, been watching since the Void days, and because science, I got my fiance into your Half-Life series and wanted to ask, were you nervous going to Chernobyl? Please keep being awesome. I was not nervous. As you will see when we produce our videos eventually, there's 1,500 files I have to label and go through. I was not nervous about Chernobyl because it's actually quite safe to be there. As long as you're not doing anything stupid, as long as you're following safety regulations and protocols, it's actually quite safe. And I will show you all of that. So no, I was not nervous. Matterbeam says, last question, have you ever thought about writing or filming something fictional, like your own story? Yes. I believe I showed you, but don't show anybody. I believe I showed you at one point. I've written a bunch of sci-fi short stories, so I do like writing fiction and reading fiction. I just don't do it for a living, and I don't have a whole lot of other motivation to do stuff afterwards. Cherkea says, so you didn't kiss the elephant's foot? No. You can't go anywhere near that. But I did talk to a guy, and the interview is also in our footage. I did talk to a guy who got close enough to the elephant's foot to quote-unquote hug it, but he assures me that he did not, in fact, hug it. William Bauer says, is the wormhole challenge still ongoing? Good transition. The wormhole challenge, in which I will pay you thousands of dollars to come up with a better, simple demonstration for how wormholes work that Hollywood movies can use. The submissions for that end on midnight on Halloween, October 31st. After that, I will be going through all the submissions, of which there are over 200 now. I will be evaluating them, and I will be sending emails to the winners. And then I'll be featuring their demonstration in some sort of video that I have not yet filmed. But soon. It is ending. To answer your question, submissions are still open for the next however many days that is. 5. You didn't shoot the elephant's foot with an AK-47? No. No, they took my AK at customs. And by the way, a lot of people were saying, could you just bring back stuff from Chernobyl if you wanted to? No. What you may not know is that there are so-called portal detectors at most my throat's dry. Most international airports that have radiation detectors. So if you had anything that was hot, it would be detected and they'd take it away from you. Ed Foss says, I wish I could nuke these hemorrhoids. And with that, thank you so much for watching this episode of Office Hours. I hope you learned something about nuking asteroids today. We talked for about a half an hour about it. It turns out, if this study is to be believed, that nuking asteroids could be a viable solution to an asteroid that came to us out of the blue. Yes, we could send B. Willie to blow it up. Theoretically. This week at the facility, we will have a new episode later on in the week. And this weekend, for Halloween, as I'm putting in the chat right now, we will be playing a special scientist. Oh, something went wrong. Oh, man. I haven't spoken like this for a while. We will be playing we'll be going through another Scientist Plays. This time, we're doing something spooky, sci-fi, sciencey. We're playing Dead Space 1. The night of All Hallows Eve and Halloween Eve. The 30th and the 31st, go to the Kyle Hill Gaming channel. Get in there if you want to stay up to date with everything happening at the facility, including hair care routines. Go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill and join the facility today. Get to see everything that I'm talking about early. Get to join our Discord, which I'm told houses a repository of nerds unlike anywhere else on the internet. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I gotta go get ready to watch Dune. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I hope that you are nice to each other. I hope that you are safe and not irradiated. Don't worry, I'm safe and not irradiated. Be nice to each other, y'all. Because this, at the end of the day, this is all we got. No, no, the filter's on so they can't see that I'm glowing. Don't. Shh. I said don't.